When we think of sparkle and sparkly things, we immediately think of diamonds, which brings me to one of my favorite quotes. "A diamond is just a chunk of coal that did well under pressure," by Henry Kissinger. Oh my goodness, I'm going to take a deep breath. I was uncertain that we would be able to gather here today, and now we're here, listening to me ramble on about how your sparkling personality is worth displaying, okay? Well, let's get started, but before we do, just a little background about myself. I am an immigrant who escaped a war-torn country about 41 years ago with my father, my uncle, my mother, who was 7 months pregnant at the time. With 2 gold bars, we secured our spot on a small fishing boat, okay? That had a max capacity about 100 to 150. And that evening, that night, there were about 500 immigrants. Yes, the boat should have capsized, and yes, it should have sank, but it didn't. We were very lucky. Because we were packed in there like sardines, food and water was scarce, and due to the lack of supplies, I suffered from dehydration, which led to seizures, and almost died. I don't remember that incident. It could be because I was too young, could be because it was too traumatic and it's been erased from my memory completely. But listening to my parents retell that story over and over again, the fear and anguish was palpable. I mean, the year was 1980. Vietnamese immigrants were pouring into the United States daily. And when I think back to that story, I think, my goodness, my parents gambled. They gambled on our lives to get to this mysterious land of great opportunity. You know, and I'm just wondering, why did they do that? But because of their courage, it has allowed me to dream ever so big and taught me to never give up. From lost immigrants to settled citizens to, can I say, a savvy scientist, and hopefully a published author soon, and proudly standing before you, Mrs. Oklahoma, a state title holder. I am proof that dreams do come true. And if they come true when you believe in yourself, when you challenge yourself, and when you work hard. So why pageantry, right? Why subject yourself to that vulnerability when we tell our children daily, don't judge others, and don't allow others' judgments to define you, okay? But here I am in the pageant world allowing 5 to 10 strangers to do just that, nitpick at my flaws, right? Well, some people, you know, they like to propel off of buildings. Some like to jump out of airplanes, okay? Others like to compete in triathlons. I'm not in that category of people. I'm in the completely different breed of women who like to put on 6-inch heels, walk around in a bathing suit. It's the adrenaline rush for sure. So upon entering my first year at UCO, I had a goal in mind. I wanted to compete in the Miss UCO pageant. And I knew from my youth, I competed in cultural pageants, so I kind of want to step out of my comfort zone a little bit. And let's just go back. When I tell people I compete in pageants, I usually get this weird expression on their face. It's like, wait, what, you do pageants? And it's not until I tell them I'm also a scientist do I capture their attention, and we continue the nice conversation, but it usually evolves around the how and the why. The how was real simple. The how was I was mommateered. The definition of that is my mom made me, okay? I was 15 at the time. I wasn't even of age to compete in the pageant that they wanted me to compete. My parents belonged to a Vietnamese cultural organization, and they were looking for someone to represent them in the Miss Asian Oklahoma pageant. I was 15, awkward, hormones were raging, you know, completely confused by the person I was at the time, and oh my gosh, let's not even talk about puberty, okay? And here you are, you want to put a dress on me and then throw me on the stage? So I looked at my mom, I said, are you sure about this? And she goes, yes, just do it for me. Don't worry about winning, just do it. I said, okay. With a little bit of talent and my good grades, I entered. I competed that year and shocked everyone, placing first runner-up to Miss Asian Oklahoma, 15 years old. And you say, okay, but you didn't win the pageant. Hey, at 15 and what I was going through at the time, that was a win. And that spawned my love for pageantry. There are so many different aspects of pageantry that I absolutely love, and that's one of them. Being able to flex your flaws and embrace your differences, and being able to showcase that to others, and then share your empowerment with them. So entering UCO, my first year was 1998. Wanted to compete in the Miss UCO pageant. That's a precursor to the Miss Oklahoma America pageant. If you don't know, that pageant is the one that's televised with the talent competition. I don't know how to even get started in that. Like I said before, I competed mostly in cultural pageants. So this was me stepping out of my comfort zone, setting new goals for myself, first year at UCO. So I walked into the student affairs office, and there was a group of young women there, sitting there, just talking, chit-chatting before classes. And I walked in and I smiled and I said, I'm interested in competing in the Miss UCO pageant. Who do I need to talk to learn a little more about it and pick up an application? And they just looked at me. Blank expressions, blank looks, and I'm just like, hello, standing here waiting for you to answer me. Would their blank expressions turn to expressions of amusement and a little disdain? I started getting flustered. And finally, after what seemed like forever, a girl stood up and said, the applications aren't available. And in my head, I'm thinking, so are the applications not available yet? Or the applications are just not available to me? Okay? She probably thought and probably assumed I wasn't an American citizen, which I was. I felt flustered. I left my name, I left my number, and I left my email, and never got a response back. When I left that day, that insecure little Vietnamese girl reappeared, okay? I started feeling embarrassed. I started feeling ashamed, and I didn't know why. Why was I feeling this way? And then eventually all that embarrassment, all that shame turned into anger. How did I allow these 6 strangers, okay, to get under my skin that way? I was so frustrated with myself, and I started questioning my worth, and I said, okay, we've got to change this. Maybe I should stick to just, I went back and forth. Should I compete? Should I not compete? Should I stay in the class of just cultural pageants? And that's the thing with disappointment and pain. Pain can either paralyze you or it can propel you. But it's ultimately up to you to decide which direction you're going to go, okay? And the direction I decided to go was the other way. And in 1999, the Asian Student American Association was founded. And the following year, Miss Asian UCO pageant, scholarship pageant, was founded. I took my goals, turned it around, used that negativity and that hate that was festering in my heart, turned it around and said, you know what, I'm not going to allow anybody else to feel this way. And I'm going to create something for women just like me to be able to showcase their background, their culture, and their ethnicities. It wasn't very easy to do. I say that, I stand here, it took me another year. After my friends and I founded Asian American Student Association, it took me another year to petition for that pageant. I got stuck many, many, many times. I can't tell you how many times I got stuck. And it's usually because, no, that's not a good idea. I got told no numerous times. I mean, they got so sick of seeing my face in the office that when I would come up to the door, it was like mice just dispersing. So they got sick of seeing me, but I continued to push a year, month after month, I pushed and I petitioned. And they said no. So I was stuck in a hard place, which brings me to another story, and it's a funny one. I was in a competition, a pageant competition in California, and there was a stage and a makeshift runway. I was walking down that runway, and the two parts that met, my 4-inch stiletto heel got caught in it. I tried to wiggle myself out gracefully, and if anybody has ever tried to do that, it doesn't work. When even when you walk in heels and you get stuck in the mud or something, it's not graceful. And so I decided, you know what, I'm just going to go with it. Took the shoe off and continued to walk down the runway. And when I got to the end of the runway, I started hearing fits of laughter everywhere. Okay, just kind of breaking out in the audience, and I knew what they were laughing at. It was pretty evident. So I laughed with them. I took one big smile again to the judges, shrugged my shoulders, winked, and left. That year, I was Miss Vietnam, USA 1997. The moral of the story is, it doesn't matter how many times you get stuck in a hole. Instead, figure out a way to get out of it. Figure a way to get out of it, or like me, leave it behind and refocus. And that's the point of the story. Pageantry has taught me so many different things. It's taught me to be able to answer questions on a whim, increasing my confidence. And now I'm able to look someone in the eye and answer questions about myself without shying away. It's taught me, each pageant I competed in, I grasped new skills from coaches and seasoned contestants, learning new interview techniques and ways to display my purpose and platform. And I think it paid off. I mean, when I walk into a job interview, I can do it with comfort and ease. I am very grateful for the lessons I've learned in pageantry. And not only that, I find myself even more empowered that I'm able to direct and teach and share my knowledge and expertise in this field to other potential contestants who are willing to show their heart. And I think that's the most empowering thing, when you give another person that confidence. Don't get me wrong, I failed numerous times, more times than I'd like to admit. But, I always had more fight than fear in me. When they told me, no, you can't have a pageant because you don't have an advisor, you don't have a committee, you don't have an organization. ASA was founded in 1999. Well, we're not sure how this is going to look. Well, it's going to look great for the university because you're supporting diversity and inclusivity. And my favorite one of all, and my husband tells me this all the time, he's sitting right there, we just don't have the funds. And I said, well, if I told you if I can find it and fund it, can I go forward with it? And thanks to the Asian District of Oklahoma, I was able to do that. And our very first Miss Asian UCO was crowned, Jenny Nguyen, in 2000, representing Vietnam. Yes, failure was there, but my will to succeed was evident. And I kept telling myself, well, maybe I should stop. I keep getting no, 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 no. Maybe I should just stop and try something else. Maybe I should just go and compete in the Miss UCO pageant. But I didn't want that. I didn't want that now. And so I kept asking myself, how far will I go? How far am I going to fly? I'm not going to know that if I don't try to take off. So I leave with you today. Thank you, by the way, for sitting here and listening to me and sharing some of my most pivotal pageant points that led me to discover self-love, self-confidence, and self-empowerment. And so I leave with you. I encourage you to aspire to inspire, because your reaction is the catalyst in sparking someone's inspiration or taking out their flame. And always remember to never dull your sparkle. Thank you.